guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you some of my shopping tips when I'm in Paris, including how to do tax returns whilst you're there. So if you're interested, do keep on watching. First of all, if you have not caught my previous video on solo traveling in Paris, I'm going to be linking it up here for you to watch, just in case you want to watch that before coming back to this video. But if you're only concerned about like shopping tips when you're in Paris, then I think this video is right up your alley. Honestly, I don't think it's a surprise that a lot of people actually go to Paris to shop, just simply because the items are cheaper over there for the exact same thing you would get back in Singapore or anywhere you live around the world. If you're someone already living in Europe, then I don't think the price disparity is that great. But if you're living in Asia or any other where around the world, then I think shopping in Europe or shopping in Paris specifically will be an excellent idea to do, because you will get a lot of things there, especially the French brands, for a much cheaper price. So I always try to make it a point to, you know, like list down all the things that I want to buy, and then when I eventually get to Europe or get to Paris, I just buy it over there so that I can shop but save at the same time, because like I feel like I'm not spending that much on the exact same item I would if I were to get it back at home, which is why Paris is always a great idea for shopping. So yes, if you go to Paris, definitely make use of the shopping experience there, because things are cheaper, the experience is also possibly nicer. It really kind of depends. So yeah, I'm gonna be touching some of my shopping tips when I'm in Paris. So before I touch on which malls are my favorite malls to shop at and which areas are my favorite shopping areas, we must first touch on payment methods. So obviously, to shop for these items, you need to be able to pay for them using a certain payment method, and the best way to go about it is to use a credit card. So make sure that you actually bring credit cards abroad if you want to do shopping. I think that is the best idea to do so. Furthermore, I think a lot of the countries, including Paris, now are mostly going cashless, so a lot of the things you can pay using credit cards. And I will highly suggest people use credit cards when you're shopping overseas, because you can actually get miles from your credit cards if you do it wisely and strategically. So I think you should always latch on that opportunity if you can. So personally, I do own quite a few credit cards, but I do not obviously bring all my credit cards abroad. I think that is really silly. One way to do that is also to try and latch your credit cards onto Apple Pay so that you can do Apple payments. But just in case some places do not accept Apple payment, they still need to see the physical card, I will highly suggest you bring your physical cards along as well, because sometimes for tax returns they will actually ask you for your physical card to slot into the machine to actually like do the tax return. So if you don't have like a physical card, it's very hard for them to do the tax return on that particular card itself. So I normally bring the physical card with me abroad as well. So I think that's a really good tip. And then when you're shopping, also make sure to bring your passport along. I don't think they actually accept like an image of your passport, so just to be safe, just bring along your physical passport as well, which also means that the bag that you're carrying with should be able to at least fit your passport inside, because I know some people shop with like micro bags. I wouldn't really suggest that. At least bring like a crossbody bag that fits your passport, which is not very big anyways. So always bring your passport when you're going shopping, because you never know, they really need your passport to do any sort of tax returns. So back to the credit cards, I actually have an Hermès card which I always bring when I'm abroad. I do know of some people who will make use of Revolut or Utrip. I think it works kind of the same way, but I've already gotten really used to Hermès. So the great thing about Hermès is that you can actually link your credit cards onto the Hermès card itself. So only MasterCards actually, they don't accept anything like Visa or Amex, so only MasterCard. And then you link it to your Hermès card and bring the physical Hermès card to go shopping. So when you make payment on the Hermès card, you actually get Hermès points, which you can use to offset for your next purchase using Hermès. And then you also get points or miles on your credit card as well. So it's like a win-win kind of situation. I personally have not tried out Revolut and Utrip, but I do know that Utrip, you actually need to convert the dollars. So let's say you want to convert Sing dollars to euros, you actually can convert it and store it in the card itself, so that when you make payment, you are making payment using stored credits in the U-Trip card. I feel like if you're someone that travels around the world quite a bit, then I think it would make perfect sense. But I just personally do not really like the idea of having my values stored in the card itself, just in case anything were to happen to the card company, then it's quite a hassle. So I prefer to just like do a linkage card, which is what Hermès does. So you link it up and then you get Hermès points, and then you get like credit card points, which is great. So I think that has personally been working well for me. So obviously this is in the Singapore context. I'm not sure if you're living somewhere outside of the world what kind of like cards you have that has this sort of like system as well, but I'm pretty sure you will have it in your country. You just need to find out what cards work for you and then just kind of like make use of it as well. So the cards that I typically tag on to the Hermès card are typically the UOB Privy Mastercard as well as the City Premier Miles card. I think these two cards are great because when you make foreign transactions, you get more miles, which is why I always tag these cards to the Hermès card when I'm traveling abroad. These cards are not so great if you were to spend it locally, if you're on the miles game, because like local miles is really low. So I only make use of them when I'm abroad, and they are these two typical cards. Yeah, I try to stick to these cards as much as possible. I do bring along my DBS Women's card as well. If I were to make any sort of online transactions, then I'll use that. But other than that, I think like physical shopping wise, I always make use of like the UOB Privy City Premier tag along to the Hermès card. Yes. So just in case you're new to the Hermès card, you just need to bear in mind that when you apply for the Hermès card, it does take some time to come to you, like the physical card itself. I believe when I first applied for it, they gave me like a e-card that if you were to shop online, you can first make use of that. But in order to receive the physical card, it takes some time. I'm not sure how long is the wait time for it to physically reach your house. So do give it some time if you want to apply for it, obviously. I'm going to link my Hermès referral code down below as well so that you can make use of it. I think you get like $5 off when you use the code, so that's great. So coming to my favorite malls in Paris to shop at, obviously there are quite a few malls, namely Galeries Lafayette, which is like the most popular mall I think there is in Paris, and then there's also Printemps, and then there's also a newer Le Bon Marché which you can shop at. I personally have shopped at all these three shopping malls, so I can tell you that the ones that I typically go to is actually Galeries Lafayette, simply because it's really huge. So there are a lot of things that you can see and shop at, and it's just like massive. The shopping mall is massive. So for Galeries Lafayette, if I'm not wrong, there are actually two Lafayettes, one along the Champs-Elysees and then one which is near Saint-Lazare. I've actually been to both, but whenever I visit these shopping malls, I do have a list of things that I already want to zoom in and look at, so it's not like I'm really like leisurely shopping around. So I always spend not a long time in the shopping mall itself, because I also don't really want to spend my entire trip to Paris just in shopping malls. I think it's kind of like ridiculous. So I always go in with a plan, and then I shop what I want to shop and get out of it. But yeah, I can tell you that the shopping malls are like massive. The one that is near Haussmann, which is like the Saint-Lazare one, is right beside Printemps as well. So it's like an entire stretch of like shopping malls, because there's Printemps and then there's like Galeries Lafayette. But they're literally like across the road, so you just need to make sure that you're in the correct shopping mall, because it's quite confusing whether or not when you walk across the road, whether you're still in a Printemps or still in a Galeries Lafayette. So just make sure that you're in the right shopping mall, because you want to shop in the same mall so that it makes it easier to actually do tax refund as well, which I'm going to touch on later. As for Printemps, I wasn't there like really long. I think we went there like in 2023 because we had to do another shopping run for my friend at Goyard. But oh my god, the queue for that Goyard line is so long. I believe we were in the line for at least like an hour, and thank god like they had the item that we want when we went into the store. If not, it would have been like a lost cause because they will only tell you whether the item is in stock or not when you get to the front of the line and it's your turn. So there will be a possibility that you would have queued for nothing, so just bearing in mind that. But in my last video I did touch on that there is a new Goyard store like in the Hermès George V area, so I'm not sure if that line is equally as long, so you can definitely try that out. Just know that if you're ever going to shop at Goyard in like Paris, you definitely need to prepare to queue because the queues are massive. And then in 2023 we actually also went to Le Bon Marché. I wouldn't say it's a new mall, I think it's been up for some time, but as compared to all these three, Le Bon Marché is the newer mall. And they have this really nice like escalator like area, and it's just very pretty as well. We didn't really spend a lot of time there because like when we went it was about to close already, so we only went to Chanel I think and Celine, and that's about it. So some things you need to take note of when you're shopping in these shopping malls. Besides shopping in shopping malls in Paris, there are obviously like individual stores like littered all over Paris that you can shop at. So like a Celine store, instead of like a Celine area in like a Galerie Lafayette, you have like a physical Celine store, you have physical like a Chanel store, and like a physical like LV store. And all these shops typically have like their flagship stores and they are really massive. So if you want the whole experience, then I would say try to skip the shopping malls, because like you won't get that kind of experience if you were to just shop in the shopping malls itself. I really think it depends on like what you want to get out of shopping there. If you just want to go in and get your item and come out, then like maybe if you see the item in the shopping mall and they have it, you can just buy it there. But if you really want to go and experience like the flagship store experience or like a physical store experience, then I would say just skip the shopping malls, because like you'll never get that in the malls, because they're all like little like stores like littered all over your departmental store, a bit like Takashimaya and all that. So it's a really different sort of experience. I think one thing worth noting is that if you were to buy your item from an individual store and for whatever reason you want to exchange it, you cannot go to a departmental store to exchange it. I'm not even sure if you can bring it to another individual store to exchange it. You typically always have to bring it to the same store that you bought at to exchange it. But definitely if you were to buy from an individual store, you cannot exchange it from the store and the departmental store, because there are like two different systems. Because I've tried doing that and they don't allow it, so never ever do that. So that's one tip from me. So all the departmental stores will have an area usually at the top of the mall where you can do tax refund. So you have to actually bring your passport and then bring your items and the receipts and all that to go up to the tax refund area to get the envelope printed out for you, so that it makes things faster and easier when you're at the airport itself to do the tax return. You just scan a barcode. So these tax returns, sometimes you have to queue for it and sometimes the line tend to be quite long. So what the departmental stores do is that, so just in case you're there shopping last minute and the departmental store actually closes, then you can't do the tax refund, they actually allow you 3 days to do your refund. So any day within these 3 days you can just go back and do the tax refund. Also just bear in mind that the day that you purchase is considered as one day, so they do not count by hours, they count by the physical day itself. So if you have bought your item on a Monday evening, you need to do your tax refund by Wednesday before the mall actually closes. If not, they will not allow you to do tax refund at all. So that's something worth noting and planning your itinerary around it. Personally, I would say that as much as possible, just do your tax refund on the same day itself, so that you don't really have to return back, unless your hotel is really close to the mall and you have already buffered time in to really just go to the mall to do tax refund. If not, I would highly suggest you just do it on the day itself, because you never know when you will actually head back to the area. We were actually this close to not making it back to the Le Bon Marché to do our tax refund, so that is something definitely worth noting. One of the questions that I get quite a lot is basically, which one gives you the better tax return, whether or not you do it at the shopping mall or do it in these individual stores. Like, what gives you a better tax return? If you search online, a lot of the people or most of the reviews will tell you that it's better to shop at the shopping mall because they kind of like pull everything together so that there's like, I think, like less admin charges, or I don't know, like you kind of like get more tax return out of it. But I can debunk that and tell you that it's not really true, because I did my own calculations in like 2022 and 2023, and I don't find that to be the case. It really depends on like the store that you go to as well. I can even give you some of the numbers in like the description box down below of how much tax return I normally get. So when I got back home, I actually did like a calculation of like how much tax return I actually really got out of these. So these are just tax return. It's not based on the price difference from like Singapore to like Paris, but it's really just based on the tax return itself. So in 2022, I did quite a bit of shopping. Some of my Hermès stuff that I bought in store, because Hermès is usually, oh, they do have it at like the departmental store, but I think very rare. People normally go to like the physical store itself. So for Hermès items, I can tell you that the tax return is typically about 10%, which I'm quite shocked because I thought it would be a little bit more. So it's just 10% if you really need to know. And then for Celine mostly I shopped at the departmental store, and it was at the Galerie Lafayette. So this was at the Haussmann one, and the tax return was about 10.3%. But my point is that Celine is already much cheaper in euros, so this calculation is literally just for the tax return. On top of that, you already get the price difference in terms of like the price in euros as compared to Sing dollars. So that's really just to bear in mind. Like, I think for my Celine items, if I'm not wrong, I actually saved about like 30 odd percent. Like, I actually saved 30+% for the same items I would have gotten if I were to purchase it in Singapore. So that's that. Then Chanel, usually Chanel I buy it from, I think this Chanel I went to the flagship store, the Rue Cambon store, and it was 13% less for tax return. And then LV is about 12%. LV also the physical store. And then for Longchamp, which is in a departmental store, it was about 11.4%, and Bottega is also about 11.4%. So, and then for 2023, when we went to Paris, I think Longchamp was 13%, and this was in a physical store. So this physical store, the tax return was 13%, but if I were to do it in like a departmental store, it's 11.4%. So like I said, it's not really exactly true that if you were to buy in a departmental store, you actually save more on the tax return. So you really wouldn't know. The Hermès, also physical store, I calculated it was about 10% less, which is the same as the previous year. And then for Goyard, I actually shopped at the physical store in Goyard, so it's about 12% for tax return. And then for Chanel, which I shopped at Printemps, I think I shopped at Printemps, or like, oh no, this was Le Bon Marché. So Le Bon Marché was about 12% less. Yeah, 12% less in the departmental store. I think when I went to the physical store, it was 13%. So actually, based on my calculations here, usually when you shop at like a physical store, you get more tax return. And then Dior is about 12% as well. So I mean, I feel like based on some of the things that I have experienced or I can observe, generally the ones that I shop at the physical store as compared to the departmental store, it seems like the tax return is slightly higher. So I'm not sure why all these like reviews online say that if you were to shop at like the shopping center, like the departmental store, you get higher tax return. I don't think it's exactly the case. I think it really depends on the brand itself as well. So just something to bear in mind and take note of. Don't always believe what you see online. so always do your own calculations as well. So just to summarize the pros and cons of shopping at a departmental store in Paris. So the pros are that you get to pool all the expenses that you've done it, and then you can make your tax refund all together in one shot. So for example, if you go to Lafayette and you shop at Celine, you shop at Bottega, you shop at Longchamp, you can pool everything together and do the tax refund in one shot, and it will list everything down, rather than you were to go to an individual store. Then whatever you buy in the individual store, it will come out in one sheet, but it will be per, you know, like per individual store. So you end up having a lot of these like envelopes that you need to hold on to bring to the airport to scan. So I think that's one pro I can think of. Another pro is that you definitely have everything under one roof. So if you are not the kind of person that likes to walk around too much and like just go everywhere looking for the brands, then I think it's just great to go to like a Galerie Lafayette or like one of these shopping malls and just do all your shopping there. I'm not sure if you can find all the items there, but at least you just need to be in one spot and like just do all your shopping there and bring it all back, so you don't have to make multiple trips to like multiple stores, because some of these multiple individual stores you kind of need to like queue for as well, so you kind of like waste time doing that as well. So I think that's one of the major pros for shopping in like a shopping mall itself. And then in terms of cons, one thing I can think of, because I've experienced that, is that if you were to purchase items for your friends, like let's say you go to Chanel and your friend asks you to buy an item from Chanel, then because they pull everything together, you can't really tell how much of this belongs to whose item. You kind of like really need to do your own calculation and do the percentage of the item based on the whole price item, and then do like your calculation from there to calculate the tax return for your friend. So sometimes it makes it hard to calculate the exact rate for your friends as well. You kind of like need to like do an estimation. Some malls also require you to use the exact same credit card you have used to pay for the items to receive the tax-free back onto that card itself. So one example will be in Printemps, because I bought like a Goyard bag for my friend in Printemps, but then I obviously used the Hermès card to pay for it, because usually if I go to another, I think if I go to Galerie Lafayette, I can use the Hermès card, and then when I get to the refund station, I can just use another card for the refund. So I can use my Hermès card to pay, and then I tell them I want my refund to be back on the City Premium Miles card, for example. But in Printemps, they do not allow that, because they want to see the exact same card they have paid off. So for example, if I use my Hermès card to pay for the items, they want to put the refund back onto the Hermès card as well. But because the Hermès card is like a debit card, is like a transferal card, I can't really like receive money back into that card, if you get what I mean. So I had to randomly buy a Chanel lipstick, I think, using my UOB Privy card, so that the tax refund counter will allow me to use the UOB Privy card to collect the tax refund from the Goya items as well. So I think just bear in mind, and if you're not sure, then maybe ask or do some sort of research in advance, because I obviously did not know this, because that was my first time shopping in Printemps. So if you're going to Printemps to shop, then definitely bear that in mind. I don't think I've experienced that in Le Bon Marche and Galerie Lafayette. It was just Printemps, which was a little bit strange. The other con that I can think of, which I've already mentioned, is that they cannot transfer the items in from individual stores, and you also don't get the whole like individual store experience. So say for example, usually people go to Paris to shop at the Chanel flagship store, which is the Chanel Rue Cambon store, because that is the only store in the world that actually gives you the white paper bags and the white boxes if you were to buy a bag itself. So if you want the white boxes and the white bags, then you really need to go to that store to get it. Otherwise, everywhere else around the world is just like a black paper bag, like the typical black paper bag. So if you ever see the Chanel white paper bag, you will know that it actually came from the flagship store. It's like an exclusivity kind of thing. So yeah, for those of you who are new here, my name is Amelia and I do videos on luxury and lifestyle. So if you enjoy this kind of videos, do consider subscribing, click on the notification bell so that you don't miss any of my future videos. Another tip that I will give you when you're shopping in Paris is to definitely go early to the store itself. So say for example, the Chanel flagship store opens at 10 a.m. then you want to be there at like 10 a.m. or even earlier. You want to be the first few people in the line because you don't want to wait so long and then the line just keeps getting longer and longer. I know some of the stores, they actually do virtual queues now, so you can put your details down and then you can just walk around the store and then like a sales associate will come to you at some point and then, you know, like offer you certain things that you want. Another thing is to get a shopping appointment. So if you actually know an SA there, you can text your SA in advance and tell them that you want to come in at this certain point in time and they can make a shopping appointment for you. So I think that is the most efficient use of time. The last time I was in the Chanel store, I stupidly didn't take down my SA's details. If not, I would have been able to just text her and tell her, hey, I'm coming in 2023 as well, like can I get a shopping appointment, instead of having to queue up. So I think that's one great tip. So I actually kept my SA contact from the Galeries Lafayette store because she was really nice, and like I didn't know whether I was going back to Galeries Lafayette when I was, you know, like making my solo trip in like Paris in like 2022. So I took her contact down, and like when my friend was there earlier this year, I could actually text her and tell her that, hey, my friend is coming down and like could you keep this aside so that I can get her to buy from you, and she will text me back and tell me that she has placed the item aside for me. So I think that's really excellent. Even if you do not visit Paris that often, I think it's always like a good idea to just keep in contact or keep the contact of your SA when you're in Paris, especially if you've encountered a nice SA. I think that's always useful to just have their contact on hand. So the best brands that I would recommend people to shop at are definitely the French brands because the pricing in euros are so much better and you get a lot of savings by just like shopping them in Paris. So definitely LV, Dior and Celine even, because I feel like these three brands you will get the most shopping discount out of as compared to like shopping it in Singapore. So I always tell people to just buy these brands when they are in Paris because it's significantly cheaper, okay? I actually do have a Celine jacket that I bought in Paris, and if I were to do the price comparison between Singapore and in Paris itself, so Singapore, I think the jacket was like $5,000, which was really ridiculous, which is why I didn't buy it. But in Paris, after tax-free, it was $3,000. Like that is like a 40% savings. So I think that is excellent. So if you really want to shop, like especially ready to wear, then I would say just go to Paris and buy it because it's so much cheaper. If you're a Chanel fan, then I would say definitely make a trip down to the Chanel Rue Cambon store if you have not been there, because it's really an experience. The store is really huge and really nice, so definitely make use of your time to go explore the store itself. Don't just stay on the level 1 because there are multiple stories as well. Just go walk around because like I think they are fine with that. Maybe there will be someone like just like looking at you walk around, but just ignore them and just do your own window shopping because it's really like a nice experience. Another brand that I would recommend people to shop at in Paris is definitely Poland. I know it's not like a luxury designer brand, but when I went to Poland in like 2023, like last year, they actually tell me that the tax return is 20%, which is a lot because of all the tax return amounts that I just read out to you, nothing is more than 15 or even 14%. So 20% is actually quite a lot, and you can save quite a bit of money rather than to buy it in Singapore, because you can actually get it in Singapore, you buy online and they ship to you, but I think you need to pay the shipping and all that. So buying it in like Paris is definitely much cheaper because of the tax return itself. Another brand I would highly recommend you to try and go to is definitely Goyard. I did a whole video on like Goyard. I'm going to link it up over here, but I would say that the bag that I bought, which is like the Anju PM, if I were to buy it in Singapore, it's almost like $1,000 or more in Singapore as compared to it I were to buy it in Paris. So it's definitely quite a bit of money you will be saving if you were to purchase it in Paris. So I think really just go for Goyard when you are in Paris as well. The last on my list is actually Hermès, but I would say that for Hermès, the tax return is not that great, and if you want to build a profile in Singapore to actually get bags, then it's not really the best idea to purchase items in like Paris as well. The only thing I can really think of is really to try and get a letter appointment when you're in Paris. So as you can tell, I've never been one successful at getting a letter appointment when I'm in Paris, but I'm going to just keep trying. So it's like a lottery system, and it's by luck and by chance. So yeah, if you get a letter appointment, it's most definitely you'll get a bag. Whether or not the bag is something that you will like is another thing, but you'll definitely most likely get a bag. So I think that's great. I think you should definitely try for the Hermès a letter appointment if you're in Paris already. So those are the brands that I would highly recommend people to go for when they're in Paris. But in terms of like the areas to shop at, I think my very top pick would be to shop at the Rue Saint-Honoré or the Rue Cambon area. So I actually stayed at this hotel which is called Hotel du Continent, and I love that hotel so much because like I think its location is just excellent. It's near Concorde and it's on the intersection between Saint-Honoré and Rue Cambon, so it's really great for shopping and like very central. So every time I do shopping, I just like drop it off back in the hotel itself. I think these two stretch have a lot of shops, like individual stores. You have your Celine, you have your Dior, YSL, everything is along this stretch, including the Rue Cambon like flagship Chanel store. So I think if you want to get to Chanel in the morning, it's great because it's just so near the hotel itself. Another area would be the Champs-Elysees, like the entire stretch down Champs-Elysees. It's not my absolute favorite area to shop at simply because it's quite crowded. So I prefer to just shop at like Saint-Honoré, Rue Cambon area. There's actually a Lafayette along Champs-Elysees as well, and that is the exact same Lafayette where I bought my very first designer bag, which is the Chanel Boy. If you've been watching for a while, then you will know that the Chanel Boy is actually my very first designer bag ever. So if you were to walk around like the Montaigne area, because Champs-Elysees is such a long stretch, so there are like, you know, like little roads leading out as well. So I prefer going to like these little areas. There is the George V Hermès store there. There's the Dior flagship store there, which is the Long Montaigne. They have like the Dior gallery as well there, where I took all these nice photos. So you can visit the museum as well. It's just right beside the Dior flagship store, and like if I'm not wrong, I think this Dior Montaigne store was like quite newly renovated, like maybe in 2021. I can't recall exactly when, but it's very new and very nice. So I really like shopping there, and the people there were all very nice. Just that it can get kind of crowded sometimes, so you just need to pick and choose when is the best time to go there as well. And then there's also a really amazing Kith store. So if you're into Kith, like this kind of like streetwear brands, then they have a really big Kith store somewhere along the area as well. The last area would definitely be the Galerie Lafayette Haussmann area, because Printemps is just beside it. You are going there mainly for these two shopping malls actually, so it's just these two. I think that if you want to hit it up, then you just go to these two stores and like just that's it for the day, you know, because I think it's big enough to just like leave you shopping for quite a while. So in my last video, I actually mentioned that there are two sale seasons in Paris every year. There's the winter sale and there's also the summer sale. So I think these are the best times to shop. I'm not going to repeat myself, so you can watch the previous video. However, I would say that I'm not entirely sure what they sell during these sale seasons, like because winter sale is in the start of the year, so they may sell either like past summer items or like, you know, past winter items as well. I think it really depends on what items, because I don't really typically follow. I mostly get like accessories from this sale, which is why I'm not too sure about the ready to wear stuff. So you might want to keep a lookout for it if you are in the area and you want to shop the sale season as well. Another tip I will give you if you're going shopping in Paris especially is to dress comfortably. You want to just dress nicely and comfortably when you're in Paris so that, you know, like shopping is not like a hassle for you. If you have been to Paris, then you know that a lot of the people there dress really monotonously. They're either in black, white or grey. So when I went in 2014, I didn't know this and I wore a bright pink coat. I think I got a lot of stares from people. Whether or not I care was another thing. Obviously I didn't really care, but it was just like I was definitely not fitting in and I was definitely a foreigner, like everyone could tell. So if you want to like fit in better in like Paris, then you need to mute down your colors and just dress like a little bit muter if you don't want to like draw attention to yourself. So that's something worth noting. I think another thing mostly people talk about is how to dress when you're going for a Hermès leather appointment. So I would say that if you get a leather appointment, first of all, congratulations. I personally would wear something really muted, like maybe a white top and like black pants, or like white top and like jeans, I don't know. And if I have like Hermès accessories like a belt, then I would accessorize with that. If I'm somehow bringing like a Hermès bag to Paris, then I might bring the Hermès bag as well. If not, then I wouldn't even suggest you bring like any sort of like luxury bag. Just bring a bag with no logos will be best. Personally, I think that's something I would have done. Or actually, I wouldn't even mind bringing my Chanel vintage classic flap, to be very honest. I think the vintage vibes will vibe with them well. I'm not very sure because like I really like my vintage classic flap and I bring that on travels quite a bit, so I might bring that like and hopefully look a little bit more prim and proper, because I think to a certain extent they also look at what you wear, so you have to dress the part as well, you know, if you want to get like a bag from them. I've also touched on the previous video that after I do my shopping, I always try to put my shopping bags down in the hotel before I actually leave and like go and do more exploring, because I don't typically just do shopping trips to Paris. I feel like personally it's not for me. I will want to go to Paris and do like arty stuff. I want to eat nice food, go to a nice cafe as well. I don't really just want to spend my entire time shopping there, so I always try to drop off my shopping and then head out for my activities. Just for security reasons, I want to leave the shopping in the hotel and not bring it along around with me. So in the last video, I also did mention that I choose to stay in a hotel that's near the shopping area so that it's more convenient for me to drop off my shopping as well. And I always make sure that I get a hotel instead of like a hostel or Airbnb, just simply because of the security reasons. And I never actually make up my room because like I just don't want people to touch my stuff, so I just like always put the do not disturb sign on the door itself. I think one thing I personally would do when I'm doing shopping in Paris, especially like massive shopping, is to actually open up the items when I'm back in the hotel. Like at least open it up and make sure it's the right item before you fly back and realize that, and then you can't do anything about it anymore because they bring it to the bag and then you wrap it up. I'm not sure. Sometimes I've saw some videos that there have been mix-ups before. I've never actually experienced that for myself, but I think it's still always wise to actually open up the items in the hotel room and make sure it's the correct item that you want before, you know, you actually like bring it back home and realize it. Then I think it will be disastrous because like you can't do anything about it anymore. Another reason why I would suggest that is also because if you were to change your mind last minute, then you can always still do so because you still have time to do so before you go back to your country. So always try to open up the items when you're back in the hotel room. So coming to the last bit, which is the tax refund that you do at the airport itself. So when you go to any of the shopping malls or even like the individual stores, what they will do is that you will pass them your passport. They will actually print out a tax refund slip itself and put it into like a global blue like envelope for you, so that it's easier when you go to the airport and you just scan it. So what I personally do is to try and like put little indications like this envelope is from Printemps, this envelope is from Chanel, and like in like accordance and order, so that when I scan it, I also scan it in accordance so that I don't get mixed up. And this is only because I do quite a bit of shopping there, so if you are only there and you buy like a few items, then I don't think it should be an issue for you. But I think just to keep things a little bit on track, I try to do that as well, so that I do not spend too much time at the tax refund counter when I'm at the airport itself. So what you do is you bring this white slip of paper which has a barcode. If I have an image of it, I'll try and pop it up for you. And then at the airport, there are these like tax refund counters with like tax refund machines. They are self-help, so you go to these machines and then you scan the barcode, and they will actually indicate that it's a green tick. So if it's like a green tick, and then you're good to go. If it's like a red cross, then you actually have to bring your items or bring yourself to like a counter with a person there, because sometimes they might want to do checks. I would say that I've only been checked like once. They actually asked me to open up the bag to show them that the item is inside, and then they will actually process the tax refund for you. But other than that, I didn't really encounter it. And actually this was in Spain, like when I was shopping and doing tax refund in Spain. So far in Paris, I've actually never had someone ask me to open up my item before. Maybe because my items are not really that expensive, so they didn't really ask anything. And when I say expensive, it's like above 10,000 per item kind of thing, so I don't think I've actually experienced that before. But I would say, just in case, before you check in all your luggage onto the flight itself, definitely buffer time to go to the airport earlier to do the tax refund. So what I typically do is to pack most of my shopping into like the same bag itself, so just in case they want to check, it's easier for me to just pull the item out from there. I know all the shopping is in the same bag itself, so I think that makes things a little bit easier if I were you. Definitely buffer time to go early in case there is a queue. But so far when I'm in Paris, I do not actually see like a massive queue. Maybe because I go during non-peak season, that could be a reason why. So if you're going during a peak season, then definitely buffer time to do tax refund as well. You know what the funny thing is? I can't even recall if I actually did tax refund when I was there in 2014, because I'm not even sure whether I even knew that there was such a thing. Hopefully I did it. I really am not sure. It's honestly gonna be quite silly if I didn't even do a tax refund on my Chanel boy. So I guess this is for people who are flying out of CDG. But if you're going back to London, then I would say that Gare du Nord, I have seen that there are also machines at the Gare du Nord station after you cross the customs that allows you to do the tax refund. I'm not sure if it's before or after customs. I have a feeling it's after. So you go to these machines and then you actually also do the same thing. You scan. There's a little counter for people to check as well, so the exact same thing, just like smaller scale of it. So you do that as well before you board the train back to London. Honestly, I think it's best to shop in Paris than in London, because I don't think that they do tax-free in London anymore because of Brexit. So mostly people go to Paris to shop. Like even if they go to London, they will always try to make it a point to go to Paris for like 2-3 days just to do shopping and then come back. So I think that's a great idea. In terms of how long you take to actually receive your tax return, I think it really varies. The fastest that I've seen is usually with Dior. Like Dior is really fast. Like I think within 2-3 days I actually get the tax return, which is quite amazing. I'm not sure how they made it so fast, but I think the last time when I went in 2023, they made a boo-boo, and I'm a little bit upset about it because I think they tried to charge my card like once and it didn't go through for some reason, and they charged it again after that. So this was on my Hermès card, and the great thing about the Hermès card is that you can actually see directly once they've charged you how much it is in Sing dollar equivalent, because they just do the conversion on the spot itself. So I can actually see that they charged me twice, but they did cancel the very first charge itself. But because of foreign currency, I actually lost $30 because the amount they returned me is not the same amount that they deducted for. So I randomly lost $30 like that. I feel like this kind of things can't be helped, because I didn't even know that the first time when they tapped my card it didn't go through. I'm not sure, but anyway, that is something that I would like to let you know happened to me. I would say that for the rest, right, they typically take like between 2 weeks to even 2 months to receive. depending on like your credit card statement itself. So you may need to time and again check your credit card statement. So I would suggest that you make a list of what you bought, like literally a list of the items that you bought, how much you bought it for, and then how much you're going to receive back, just to make sure that you actually receive back the tax return itself. I think sometimes it's easy for people to just drop and forget. I feel like if you bought a few small little items, then it's not really a big deal. But if you have a lot of things that you have bought, then you want to make sure that you actually receive your tax return. Honestly, right, if you have not received your tax return, I'm not even sure how you're going to go about like trying to ask the store to return you your tax return. So I have no freaking idea how's that gonna work. Another thing to note is that you actually get more money back if you were to pick the credit card option instead of cash. So a lot of people just pick the credit card option. So I would say just pick the credit card option and make sure that you put it into the credit card. It's just that you need to track it for sure, and like it's not an immediate cashback. If you want your tax return in cash, I think they take a lot more admin fee from that, so I think it's not really very worth it. So always try to pick the credit card option. I think one last thing before I end off this video is to let you know that some brands actually do international exchanges as well. I wouldn't say all the brand. I know Celine doesn't do that because I've actually asked, because I think when I bought my brown cap, I actually wanted to exchange it just in case the sizing were to not fit, but then I realized you can't do that internationally anyways. But I know Bottega, you can do international exchange, which I'm a little bit kicking myself right now because I didn't know it back then. So as you all know, I actually bought the mini loop in the parakeet green color, which I've not used until now because when I came back, I realized that they came out with another color which is called the travertine color, which I much prefer. I didn't know that you can actually do an international exchange within 14 days, so it would have been great if I realized that and did it on the spot before I went ahead and bought the travertine one as well. So yeah, I guess I have the mini loop in parakeet in my collection. If you want it, please let me know in the comment section down below so that I can sell it to you for a great price. If not, I feel like if I'm still going to hold on to it, I should just make use of it because it's still in my collection, guys. It's not going anywhere. So I've come to the end of this video. I hope this video has been a helpful one for you if you're thinking about shopping in Paris. If you like this video, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. I would love it if you subscribe to the channel for more, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys!